Perfect. Okay, so episode one today, we're going to be exploring different housing issues in Erie. Um, Before I get started, though, let me introduce myself. My name is Jessica Hubert. I am the webinar coordinator for Opened Eyes, as well as a lot of other positions that I hold in Erie. But Opened Eyes has been a light in my life in the last couple of years. I'm not an Erie native. I moved here about 5 years ago, and discovered Opened Eyes very quickly and just fell in love with our nonprofit. So that is who I will be today, who will be facilitating our conversation today. But let me set the series before we kind of move into our topic today. So we started this series last year, kind of at the height of the 2024 aftermath presidential election. And um, as I said, I am really involved with Opened Eyes and kind of was speaking with Brandon Wiley, who's our CEO. I believe he's also on the call today, um, about how it kind of seems like people are stuck in this space of wanting to speak, wanting to share their emotions, share their feelings about kind of apprehension that was happening after this big pivotal moment in our nation. But people were kind of afraid or didn't know how to begin those conversations. So our first series was really centered on conflict resolution in the classroom, in the workplace, how it affects our mental health, that kind of stuff. And we started with 4 episodes, each kind of featuring a member of our Opened Eyes staff and at least one member of the community, kind of doing some of those groundwork, grassroots things in our community. And we kind of liked the format of bringing those kind of difficult conversations to light, by highlighting kind of the great work that people in Erie are already doing. And in the aftermath of the 2025 election, we really wanted to bring these conversations to light, even if they're really hard to talk about. So, our overall mission with the Common Ground series is to provide a space for community members to share their experiences, their feelings, and potential solutions, if we can come up with some of these difficult conversations that are often avoided in everyday conversation. So, we hope that these webinars will provide a spark for folks to continue discussing these issues around mental health, social bias, that come up in the workplace, or specifically in this case, how poverty affects multiple facets of our society. So, why did we choose poverty to kind of set our series this year? There's a lot of stigma around this topic, around poverty, especially in our society that is oftentimes more individual focused instead of community focused. So there's a lot of myths that we kind of are seeking to debunk with this series. So throughout our series, we will have some focus areas. Um, our first set, so we have 6 episodes. Our first set are going to be focused on the basic needs. So we're talking about housing today. In a couple, or I think next month, we're talking about food insecurity. And then we'll move on to our next focus area, which is our youth. And then our last focus area will be on finances. Um, so at the end of our webinar today, I have listed out all of those episodes, and I have a QR code for you if you haven't registered for all of them. But like I said, today's episode is focused on housing. And our 2 guests that we have today, I'm really excited to introduce you to them. Let me move to our next slide. So, like I said, my name is Jessica Hubert. I will be the coordinator for today. Let me make sure. Is Jenny on the call? Is Jenny here? Okay. I don't see her quite yet, but um, Pastor Bosquet is here. So we will, we will, I'll start with your introduction. Um, so Pastor Gregory Bosquet is a ministry leader, Army veteran, educator, and behavioral health professional whose life and career have been marked by service, resilience, and a deep commitment to helping others. Born in St. Albans, Vermont, Gregory is a survivor of childhood leukemia and remained actively involved in the cancer community in Burlington, Vermont through 2005. His early experiences shaped a lifelong compassion for individuals facing hardship, suffering, and personal crisis. Gregory served 8 years in the United States Army and National Guard from 2000 to 2008 in the U.S. Infantry. During his military service, he also began pursuing higher education, laying the foundation for a career that would span ministry, education, counseling, and nonprofit leadership. He earned his bachelor's degree in history education from Pensacola Christian College, graduating magna cum laude. He later completed graduate studies in biblical exposition with school administration, graduating with honors from seminary, and went on to earn a master's degree in behavioral science and addiction counseling from Liberty University, also graduating with honors. Ordained in the Southern Baptist Convention in 2006 and the National Association of Christian Ministers in 2022, Gregory has served in Christian ministry for nearly 2 years in roles including youth pastor, assistant pastor, and chaplain. He began pastoral ministry at the First Korean American Baptist Church in Pensacola and has continued serving in ministry leadership ever since. His calling has consistently centered on spiritual care, discipleship, recovery support, and walking alongside individuals and families through seasons of crisis and transformation. Following his graduate work and education, Gregory moved to Pennsylvania and built a substantial career in school leadership. Beginning in 2010, he served as a school administrator in Bensalem Baptist School, where he worked until 2019. His background in education and administration strengthened his ability to lead teams, develop systems, support staff, and cultivate healthy organizational environments. After relocating to Erie, Pennsylvania, Gregory expanded his work in ministry and recovery care. He served as chaplain at Snug Harbor Rehabilitation and Recovery in Harbor Creek, where he combined pastoral care with a growing specialization in addiction counseling, substance use recovery, and mental health support. His work increasingly focused on helping individuals struggle with addiction, homelessness, and emotional distress and long-term life instability. Sorry, I just got a message from Kathleen. Are you able to admit? I apologize for technical things happening. We love technology. Okay, if Kathleen's able to help me admit, I'll keep going. Right now, Pastor Greg now serves in senior leadership at the Erie City Mission. In 2024, he became manager of the New Life program, the mission's long-term residential recovery program for men. In October 2025, he was appointed director of men's ministries, overseeing Samaritan Care Men's Shelter, the New Life program, and outreach services to Erie's homeless and encampment populations. In this role, he provides leadership in recovery programming, shelter services, homeless outreach, staff development, operational oversight, and Christ-centered care for vulnerable men seeking stability, healing, and life transformation. Pastor Greg, would you like to say hello?
An honor to be here. It really is a privilege to talk about this, about the unhoused community, and specifically how addiction plays a part and a role in it. It really is an honor just to sit and talk and have this discussion.
We're very happy that you're here, and I'm trying to figure out technology to get your co-presenter here. There we go. Oh, there she is. Hi,
Can you see
Jenny.
me? Hi,
Yes.
how are you? Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so sorry that I couldn't see you in the waiting room.
No, it's okay. No worries. It was good because Carrie emailed me, so that's awesome.
Okay. I was just doing introductions, so let me hop over to your bio. So let's introduce Jenny Haggerty. Jenny has been the executive director for the Mercy Center for Women, a nonprofit in Erie whose mission is to provide transitional housing and support services to women and their children who experience homelessness. Uh, Prior to that role, she was the Director of Advancement at St. Jude the Apostle Church and St. Peter Cathedral. Jenny graduated from Gannon University with a Bachelor of Business Administration and Management degree. In 2018, the American Fundraising Professionals Northwestern PA chapter awarded her the 2018 Outstanding Fundraising Professional of the Year. Jenny has also been named the 2024 Nonprofit Excellence Award CEO of the Year and is the 2025 recipient of the Louis J. Tullio Community Service Spirit of Erie Award. One of Erie's most seasoned and accomplished fundraising professionals, Jenny's commitment to whatever cause she stands behind is a blueprint for others to follow. Jenny has raised over $30 million for the Mercy Center for Women. She goes to great lengths to fight for the underserved, the poor, and the homeless, and others who are overlooked or disregarded. Her most recent accomplishment is the conceptualization, oversight, and fundraising efforts to transform the vacant Holy Rosary School into an affordable housing and resource hub, the first of its kind in Erie, now named the Mercy Anchor Community Center. With Jenny spearheading the capital campaign, the project raised an astounding $5.4 million from private donors, foundations, local businesses, gaming revenue resources, and state tax credit programs. Included in those funds was the largest Neighborhood Assistance Fund award ever given to a project in Northwest Pennsylvania, $613,125. Jenny expanded campus life to include the Mercy Anchor Community Center in 2020 and Brandy's Corner in 2025. Jenny is in partnership with Tim Nicastro and Boo Haggerty for the Triangle of Hope, an aggressive campaign of $7 million to renovate the former Sacred Heart School building to house the chronically homeless and provide food and childcare. Jenny has raised over $80 million in her professional career. She developed a campus of housing and wraparound services. The addition of the Mercy Anchor Community Center, Brandy's Corner, complements the Mercy Center for Women. This campus life houses 90 to 100 individuals. Outreaching to 2,000 neighbors highlights the food pantry twice a week. Jenny is a board member of the Erie County Housing Authority, Erie Family Center, and the Loyal and True Foundation. She sits on the steering committee for the Erie Women's Fund and is a member of the United Way's Women United. Jenny is a board member for Meals on Wheels. Most recently, she was appointed to the Pennsylvania Children's Trust Fund board by Governor Josh Shapiro. She was appointed by Deputy Secretary Rick Seeger to sit on the Northwest Regional Housing Advisory Committee in 2025. As you can probably tell, I have a script because our panelists they have amazing backgrounds. I wanted to make sure I got everything. So we will start hearing from Jenny about her work with the Mercy Center for Women, and she'll share some data and some stats regarding housing in Erie. And as we hear from our panelists, I really encourage you all to take in what they say and put any questions or comments that you have in the chat so we can discuss them later. Like I said, one of our biggest goals with this series is to have it be conversational. So I really encourage all of our participants to engage with our panelists as we talk with them today. So Jenny, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. First of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for this incredible opportunity to have candid conversation today, education, and really just the opportunity to share the housing initiatives in Erie County. The Mercy Center for Women is a sponsored ministry of the Sisters of Mercy. We have been around since 1994, and we house women and children who are fleeing domestic violence, homelessness, and addiction. And we have expanded our services recently to include a permanent housing program at the Mercy Anchor Community Center and another transitional living program at the Brandy's Corner, all on campus life. We own probably 75% of the block between East 27th and East Avenue and Pennsylvania to 27th Street. So typically, our families are with us anywhere from 1 to 2 years, depending on what program they are. And we bring them back to society, right? We have an amazing case management team that provides them the learning opportunities, whether it's financial literacy, whether they're going to be getting their GED accreditation, whether they're getting a job. It's all very important on the holistic approach to their future. And the concerns come with Mercy Center for Women, with a lot of other housing agencies in our community, is what's going on right now. Okay, so first of all, the state of Pennsylvania for 2023 and 24 ranked first in in drug overdoses. So 2 years in a row, back to back, Erie County led the state in drug overdoses. Homelessness is not going away. Mercy Center for Women, we have a wait list any given time between 70 and 90 individuals. And again, please take into consideration, these individuals are also calling other agencies. So this could potentially be just across Erie County in general. But the numbers are frightening. And I am 100% behind partnerships. I love the work of the Erie City Mission. I always tease. I'm like, that's my second favorite nonprofit after the Mercy Center, because the City Mission does incredible work and continues just to partner well. And that's what we need in this community. Individuals are on the streets. They are calling us. My team and my staff, we are boots on the ground. So we are having these critical conversations with individuals when they come into the center to find out what happened that you became homeless, or what happened that you chose addiction over sobriety. And those are very important questions for any housing program to be able to answer. Our families live with us, so we work in their home. So this is 24/7 for us. And to have them that close to us, I think benefits the community. The rising concern of poverty, lacking housing. The state of Pennsylvania is up 12% with poverty. So what are we doing? How do we move forward collectively together? And the important people that are doing this every single day, how do we bring organizations together and continue to work with elected officials on educating them, right? They have enough to do every day in this community. How can we advocate and be the voice for individuals that have no voice? So that gives you a little bit about my background, what I've been doing for 9 years, and love every minute of it. I've seen a lot of heartache, but 87% of our families continue their journey into active recovery. 76% of our families are in addiction, and 0% of the families that we have housed since 2022 have returned to straight life or the emergency shelters.
Right, Greg, I have your slides up next. Let me know when I need to go to the next one, okay?
Sounds good. Again, thank you for having me, and it really is an honor to represent the Erie City Mission and engage in this conversation that is extremely important. The Erie City Mission has been around since 1913, so it is going on. I mean, it's going on to 13 years now. So it's been a staple of the community for a very long time, and specifically for the unhoused population. And the ebbs and flow of this ministry, I mean, it's amazing how quickly things have progressed, especially when it comes to homelessness here in Erie. we have seen significant numbers increase, as already mentioned. Um, our approach here, we have basically a three-way approach that we're working on. We have an outreach teams. We go out. We're actually going out into the encampments. If you do not know, there's roughly around 26 current encampments in Erie, which these are individuals who are living out in the woods. They're living out in areas. These encampments range from 1 or 2 tents upwards to tent cities. And one of our big pushes is to go out, find these individuals, and bring them in. It's amazing how many individuals do not want to come in. I'm trying to figure out, again, that's another question, is why? Why is it that some of these individuals do not want to come into a shelter? Why do they choose, in some cases, homelessness over getting help, getting support? So that's another dynamic that we've really grown into. We started out with our outreach. I think we were doing 1 or 2 a week. We're up to 5 times a week now going out. I think last year we reached, let me see the numbers here. Uh, Shelters, refuge. Um, yeah, we had 398 encampment visits last year alone, reaching over 100 different unique individuals during that course. Um, uh, as far as the shelter, getting men and women into the shelter, getting specifically our Samaritan Care is a men's program. We don't have a women's program yet, which is why we are so grateful um, for institutions such as the Mercy Center. They do incredible work over there for women and families, and it's such a staple for Erie. So for the men's side of the situation, last year we had over 567 unique individuals in our shelter, which is interesting because 2025's PIT number that we did had us about 457 homeless. We had more than that, which is why the PIT number really is a conservative number. Um, uh, in our just in our shelter alone, just men alone, we're looking at over 567 individual homeless. Um, so the numbers that are out there, and I think that's probably where it's really hit me the most, is we don't know the total number of homeless in Erie. The numbers are really all over the place. Like I said, the PIT number last year was 457. The year before that, 2024, was 454, I think it was. And yet, shelters are reporting significantly more. I think the COC reported in his report or an application in 2024, I think it was 1,537 total for shelters for that year. So these numbers, they really are they really are everywhere. I don't think we fully understand the scope of homelessness that we're seeing in Erie, which is why this needs to be a combined effort. No one institution is going to be able to provide all the resources needed to help these men and women, which is why we do need a greater network of support. Uh, the really one of the gems of our program is our New Life program. This is where we see the greatest success. Our New Life program, for those that don't know, is a 9 months, so is a residential long-term drug and alcohol recovery program. It is a full holistic approach in which we combine actual programming classes, life skill classes, teaching the individuals that come into the program just basics, how to live independently. And that's one of the things that we've seen is how many individuals who are homeless, that there are some basic learning, basic skills that they don't have yet. Being able to identify those skills and actually equip them with things like how to budget, how to clean a house, how to, even in some cases, just proper hygiene, really basic information. Um, Beyond that, it's again drug and alcohol. So we connect them with resources outside here. We're working with Stairways, working with Pyramid, getting them the resources they need for drug and alcohol counseling, getting the resources they need for mental health treatment, getting them connected specifically with providers in the area so they can have their physical needs met. We find through the New Life program, last year we had 27 graduates. Of those 27 graduates, we've had 3 relapses currently, which is, if you do not know, as far as national average is concerned, that's a very high success rate for a 1-year program. And every single one of our graduates that left housed. And amongst them, we have currently, that we know of, those 27, 25 of them are currently still housed. You're talking a year later. That is really where we see long-term stability. Is it's not just getting them a place to live. We have to teach them how to be able to live independent. We have to be able to figure out what the root cause is. It because very often within our shelter, we do case management. We get individuals housed, and then 2 or 3 months later, they're back on the street. And the question is, why is that? Why is it when we get someone housed that suddenly they're no longer housed? And then that cycle keeps continuing on and on. And that is really, I mean, that's the question that I want to find out is why. It's not why is it someone doesn't have a home? Why is it they're unable to maintain and keep one? And I think that is really where discussion has to be, is what is the root cause of the homelessness? Not just them not having a home, but why is it they can't maintain it? And that's where my next slide is, talking about addiction and this unbroken cycle between addiction. And it is really a weird cycle. You have behavioral health challenges can increase the risk of homelessness. And we see a lot of studies based on that individuals with behavioral health issues, mental health, addiction, they have an increased risk of homelessness. But then those who are homeless have worse mental health and substance use. So we have this cycle that continues where certain individuals that have mental health disorders or have substance use have a hard time maintaining homes. And once they are removed from the home, become homeless, then suddenly their mental health degrades even worse, which makes it even harder for them to get housed a second time. And it's an unbroken cycle. And we got to find a way to break it, more than just giving someone housing, because we give people housing all the time. It's how do we stop them from becoming homeless again? How do we break the cycle in the individual's health? And that's the problem. Is and the thing is, it's complicated because each and every single one of them has a different reason. I think sometimes we try to put everyone in one box, like this is what causes homelessness, and it's not one box. You have to understand there is so many different models of homelessness as there is so many different models of addiction, and each one is a separate case study and needs to be targeted specifically to their needs. Why is it this specific individual? Why is it they are unable to keep maintained, or why did they lose all of our? I mean, the vast majority of us are born within a home structure at some point. We've lived in a home at some point, and then these individuals have lost that. Why was that? What caused that? So trying to figure out those root causes is really, I think, where the discussion needs to go. Talk about unsheltered people experience higher rates of serious mental health. We keep seeing those studies, substance use than sheltered populations. However, while using less they have less healthcare access. That's another problem. Is those individuals who don't have homes, it's harder to connect them with the resources that they need. Again, we have this cycle. There's something you have to have. It's really a broken system in the fact that to get them the resources they need, they already have to have addresses. And if they don't have an address, I can't get them the resources. So it's like the resources I need to connect them so they can get and maintain a home, I can't get them because they don't have a home. And it really is broken. How do we solve this problem in which we can get them the resources they need, the education they need, the mental the mental health treatment they need, the substance use treatment they need, while at the same time realizing that they're not even in a home yet. Um, uh, says many people want treatment, and I see that. I can't tell you how many individuals come into the shelter, they want treatment, but because of the homelessness, it disrupts everything from their sleep cycle, their safety, which makes them paranoid, transportation to get to treatment. We get a guy in treatment, but they can't even get there. So we provide them the transportation necessary. But if they're on their own, they're not going to treatment. They're not getting medication. They could have a proper diagnosis, but because of their current living situation, they can't get to their treatments that they're supposed to have. They're not consistent in taking medication. We found some ways around that, especially like you have the traveling nurses that would come out and actually we got the mobile medication. I think Stairways has it as well, in which they will actually come to a resident and actually help them maintain, organize, and administer and have accountability for their medication. Well, it only really works if they have a place of residence. If they're out there on the street, no one can find them to help them keep on track with their medications. Um, just the overall access to healthcare. If they don't have a permanent residence, it is very limited. Uh, Finally, I think, like I said, the real value that we've seen in the Erie City Mission here is the fact that we've linked the outreach, the meals. We'll talk about the importance of meals and proper dietary um, for these individuals. Our shelter case management is huge. I can't express the importance of case management. They, you can't just solve. Again, it's a case by case. Um, uh, um, every single client has a separate case and story why they are homeless, and unless we target each one individually, we find very little success. And that's where case management comes in. We have to have case management within the shelters. When they come in, you have to do an intake. You have to do a biopsych. You got to find out what their story is, and what is their root cause for homelessness. And in doing so, we can then tackle that specific case. So I really encourage case management within the shelters. Long-term residential programs, specifically targeting the root causes of homelessness. And that's really what it comes down to is we got to target the root causes. It's not, in my opinion, enough just to find them a house, because we do that all the time. And our numbers are not going down, they're going up. So we have to target the reason. Why is it not that they're homeless, but why is it they can't maintain uh, they can't maintain that home once they get it? What is it in which 3 months later they're back on the street? And it's that revolving cycle that we got to somehow break.
Thank you for that, Greg. I think Jenny, did you want to respond?
I agree 100% with what Greg's sharing. I take pride in being a volunteer for the single point in time count every year. And I was at the city mission. Typically, I am at the city mission having those critical conversations with individuals. And the point in time count is not accurate. And there is so much more that's going on in this community that I don't think we can completely understand. And those wraparound services, to Greg's point, are critically important. You can house someone and you can provide them with stability. But if they don't have the primary care, the mental health, the opportunity to get a job, the opportunity to maybe get their GED or go to a trade school, then they are going to end up relapsing and back into a former life that they're familiar with, because that's what's familiar to them. And what's also familiar to them are the people that they travel with in the encampments or in Perry Square. You know, this is their family. These are the people who they lunch with when they can, have dinner with. Last year in 25, that we know of, 19 homeless individuals were deceased. And that's just what we know of. There could be more. So the services, the case management is critically important. The supervision, the programming, the food and the nutrition, and just the opportunity to realize that just because someone is housed, it's they're not graduating from college where they're able to go out and explore the world. When someone graduates from a program, whether it's New Life or Mercy Center for Women, they need those aftercare services to keep them close to the mission so that the case managers can continue to work with them and hopefully they continue to be successful and not, as I shared, go back to a life that they were once comfortable with.
I I really appreciate kind of the image you gave of that these people are they're their family. The people that they move around with are their family, and that we don't want to take away that community. I think a big piece that I'm hearing about is that this is a community and we need to have a community feel, not just addressing the singular problem and not addressing the holistic person behind this case. Um, I do have some questions, but before I move into questions, um, Jenny or Greg, do either of you have anything else that you wanted to kind of make sure that our participants are aware of before I move into questions?
The only thing I'd like to add is that it's difficult because we're trying to revitalize our community. Okay. And it's difficult because we often will see our homeless friends up and down State Street, Peach Street, Sassafras, or maybe sitting in Perry Square enjoying a beautiful, warm, sunny day. And the revitalization plan is critically important, but it's also very challenging to ask individuals who they're most comfortable with to move their surroundings, right? So I think we need to be compassionate as we're studying the future plans of, both city and county to take those into consideration.
Yes, it's like listening to the fact that this is it's a cycle and it's really hard to break a cycle. But I do think that a lot of folks don't even know that it's a cycle. So some areas are just focusing on revitalizing the city, but are not understanding that maybe some of those revitalizations are going to affect people who are already trapped in this cycle and don't even know that this change might be coming that will then affect this never-ending cycle in a different way. It's very frustrating. I do have a question. So when I had people register, I did have an option for questions, and one of the questions was about the east side versus the west side. Is there a difference? Do you see a difference in need between the east side and the west side?
Greg, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Being on the east side, I can start.
Yeah.
Being in the center of French and 10th and 11th, being in uh, you know 16501, the poorest zip code in all of Pennsylvania, the fourth poorest in the country. There is definitely a difference between east and west. Um, uh, the east side definitely has a higher rate of poverty, lower income, significantly more. Um, I mean, I really can't speak on why that is. I am relatively new to Erie. I've been here since 2019. I've learned a lot about it, but there are individuals that can talk about the long history of Erie and about how the city has grown over the years and why that's the case. I am not an expert on that. I think a lot has to do with uh, Gannon University, the colleges, and what's on the west side. That I think. Um, I do believe back in the day when GE was here, I believe the East Side had a lot more resources, a lot more money was being made. I think with just the downturn of Erie when it comes to the blue collar worker over the course of the last couple decades, I think that's really hurt the East Side. Um, but I really can't say much more except for it is obvious. This is the poorest zip code is on the east side of the entire state. So uh, as far as why that is, I can't say for sure. But it is true. This is where we see a greater population of the homeless. This is the heart and center on this side. But with that being said, there is unhoused individuals throughout the entire county.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and we have to understand that we're talking about the encampments. They're everywhere.
Right.
There is one encampment behind a very wealthy development that you would never guess. It's basically a gated community, but you go into the woods in the back and there is homeless right there living in tents and no one even knows they're there. You go up behind Walmart, up on Peach Street, you go up behind Home Depot. There is literally right in there in the woods, there are encampments. So we have to understand it is everywhere. It's in the neighborhood. This is an entire county, entire citywide issue. It's not an east versus west. And this is something why we all need to get on the same page and understand that there's a problem here. And unless we work together to figure it out, we're not going to solve it.
Well, and it goes into Union City, Albion, Corey, right? To the other counties that are experiencing this. And I think sometimes respectfully people want to put blindfolds on and pretend that it's not happening, but it is happening. Since 2010, Erie has lost 10,000 individuals. They've moved. I see homelessness matriculating towards 26th and Sassafras and Peach Street, and it does go west. And then, of course, if anyone travels on 38th and Peach, there are individuals holding signs up because, again, they are just, seeking that next meal. Walmart on West Ridge Road oftentimes has our homeless friends there. So, East Side predominant. I would agree with Greg. I think the poverty levels are higher. Like in our zip code, we probably are between a 17 and 21% in 16504. In the 16503 zip code, which is Sacred Heart, we are looking at maybe 14 to 16% of homelessness, but it's all over. And oftentimes, when even on like a Saturday or Sunday, when individuals are leaving church, right, there are our friends are out there again, just looking for the opportunity to get a cup of coffee, a warm meal. Yes, they are there to ask for money. However, they need to survive, and we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis, and just not Erie County. The nation is in a crisis. Every other day, there's a new SNAP benefit rule that affects the people that we serve. And I will stick to my, unless somebody walks that journey, I don't know how people can determine what somebody is in need of or what somebody is deserving of. So definitely a higher population in the downtown area, but I have seen in the last 5+ years it matriculating. And I would agree, even in Presque Isle, right? I have seen homelessness in Presque Isle behind the sheets on Westlake Road. So again, I think they are doing their very best to find where they can get their resources, and that's where they're setting up their encampments or, finding, I guess, a hopeful spot to rest.
I have some other questions in the chat as well. From Brandon, he asks, what are we seeing in young people today that could become tomorrow's housing crisis, and how do we intervene earlier? How do we utilize the power of early intervention or early prevention?
So I look at that as generational poverty. And that's a great question, Brandon. What is concerning sometimes for me is when a mother comes to Mercy Center and she has her children. We forget that the children are the ones who are experiencing the most trauma, right? So their services aren't as heavily involved as what we would do for a male or a female. And these children have seen everything. They have seen it all. They have seen their mother or their father need Narcan, right? They have watched this path where they have been able to, and I mean this respectfully, we want to believe that everybody's out there doing their best, but not everybody is out there doing their best. And so they're going to take advantage and they're going to use, and they have asked for that last favor from a family or a friend to sleep on a couch or to borrow money from somebody. The children are heavily infiltrated by this, and especially kids 18 to 24, but more importantly, look at the community schools. I would love to do a deep dive, and United Way does a great job with this, but I'd love to do a deep dive of how many of those children are homeless or they're living in shelters or they're living in emergency shelters. And what are we doing to wrap those services around them? Because those are our future. And when mothers are at the Mercy Center, their children must go to school, right? And there's truancy, and we've had at times, moms think that, no, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to get out of bed to walk my child to the bus stop. But it's critically important, but they need that help and they need it now. And they need the support of both human and social services to make that happen. And I think particularly from Erie County, we need to, or Erie City, we need to really do a deep dive into what's poverty in schools, right? And I know that many of our kids either go to McKinley, they're at Erie High, they're at Wilson, they're at Jefferson. That just names a few of the schools. And so that's considered transitional emergency and homeless shelter. So I think we need to start to form committees or ad hoc committees to really understand why and what's that trauma. Because I can share with you that the children suffer more than the adults. And it's sad because a mother's going to do what she can to maybe get that next drug, right? Along with that is her child. So we've got to do a better job, and we have to find solutions so that they have the chance to survive, and give them those skills and provide them with those mentors on a successful journey.
Yeah, I completely agree with Jenny. One of When it comes to you have this generational poverty. If you look at addiction, there's a lot of different models of addiction. A model of addiction is basically someone's explanation of why someone suffers from addiction. And there's different models. You have disease model, biological model, you have a psychological model of addiction, you have the cultural social model of addiction. The cultural social model says that people use because it's what they know. It's what they saw their parents do. If it's how they, when their father or mother have a situation or how hard they have work, how did they cope with it? Well, they drank or they used. So therefore, that's what they learned. That's what they know is I if all I see every day is the adults around me when they have an emotional issue or distress, they find some type of comfort in substance, then that's how you're going to cope with stress. And we see the same thing when it comes to a cultural model of homelessness, of poverty, in which you are very much, we are a product of our environment and how we grow up. Of course, there are individuals that can overcome our environment, that can overcome those things. But the truth is, those are rare and far in between. We very often are a product of who raised us, our neighborhood, our schools. So I completely agree with Jenny on that. That's definitely one of the areas of uh, the current use is kind of trapped in that. It's hard to escape it. Um, I would add to it though. Also, I see issues with individuals. I've seen more and more individuals that are coming from upper, even middle class, even upper middle class families. These are young kids, 18, 19, 20 years old, who are perhaps the first ones experiencing homelessness in their family. They are the first generation. And that's another whole discussion, because this is not generational for them. They are the first. So what's happened to them? Why is it they're not achieving the same level of success that their parents achieved or their grandparents achieved? And that's honestly the one that kind of scares me a little bit more, because that's why we're adding more to the homeless numbers. Is
Right.
is is this is a new phenomenon? I think a lot of it. I mean, my background is education, a decade as a school administrator, and I see more and more schools not fully preparing young people to be independent. I can't tell you how many individuals can't balance a checkbook, don't know how to pay a bill. They have no idea. And what happens is a lot of times the schools think the parents are teaching, and the parents think the schools are teaching. And the truth is no one's teaching these kids how to be independent and how to actually run a household. So therefore, they can't. And I think I think it does take there needs to be a deep dive discussion on how do we prevent a new generation of unhoused individuals from adding to the current problem that is generational. Um, I think this is discussion that would take more than an hour to get into. But I do believe that this is what I'm seeing. I have two individuals right now in the New Life program that are young, and it's heartbreaking because their families are not what we would expect from two individuals that are, I mean, uh, in this situation. It's this is something different that needs. I think we need to talk about and address.
And of course, you wrap funding around that because funding's instrumental, right? On how can we provide stability, sustainability if the funding isn't available. And we're all doing wonderful work, both city and county-wide, but what can we do for, to have a more robust funding opportunity for, children and youth? Because again, those numbers are very concerning. Ages 18 to 24, we're seeing more of it, and we need to be better equipped. And to be better equipped, funding is going to have to be factored into that.
Thank you both.
Sorry, Brandon. We have a question that seems to be like imagine a great scenario that we could do this. So, how do we create a program specific to unhoused individuals who are at shelters and transitioning into housing that can continuously work through with them to meet their basic needs? What could a program look like if it continuously worked with them?
Well, what the Triangle of Hope with the Sacred Heart West, the St. Paul's campus, and then build the Washington Square apartments on Sassafras is the vision is to do that, right? The vision is to work together holistically to provide those opportunities and those case managers and the street outreach and job opportunities and housing, and continuing to foster and cultivate other providers to come in and work with this population. Right now we are working in silos, right? And we're doing our best. Sometimes this is what we have silos because we again need to be better equipped to work together, because if the end goal is to house or unhouse, then Erie City Mission, their new life program, is a role model maybe to another organization, or maybe something that Erie Dawn is doing can be informative and helpful in bringing somebody full circle into their recovery. And again, the triangle of hope, that's what we want to accomplish. We want to accomplish housing. We want to make sure that they have those professional providers to work with them. And again, if there is a relapse situation, to be able to have someone on site to identify and work with them. But sometimes what's difficult is it takes 3 to 4 months for individuals to even regain their identity. When they come to Mercy Center, there's no social security card. We're looking for their driver's license, their birth certificate. And I think people who are not fully educated on the involvement behind that, that takes time. Right? I mean, they've lost their life and they've lost their identification, and it's not going to happen overnight. So our hope is with the Triangle of Hope is to bring in these 3 organizations, but more importantly, building those relationships with the service providers to allow for a lot more.
I think it's important to remember that we can't, there isn't one cookie cutter program to solve everyone's case. We have to really understand that it's not one cause of homelessness. It is every single story, every single individual that comes in, their root cause for why they specifically are unable to, why they lost their home, why they're not in a home, or why they can't keep one. It's going to be different. We have to group everything together. We want everything to be pretty in one box so that we can just keep copying the same thing. But the truth is every single individual is different. So your program has to be one that's able to take a single individual, do a full case study on that individual, find out exactly their story, what it is that they need. Is it mental health? Is it a cultural situation? Is it a lack of life skills? Is it substance use? What is it specifically they have and they need, and attach them to the right resources? It's case by case, and you have to make a tailored made um, treatment plan specifically for them. And you need a program that's able to be flexible and do that. I think in the past, I think we struggled with this, where we create a program and we think everyone that comes to the program all goes through the exact same program and they're all going to have the exact same success. And it doesn't work that way. These programs have to be flexible. They have to target individual cases and meet the needs and for that individual. Why is it they struggle with keeping and maintaining a home? Why? Uh, and it's messy. It's complicated. And that's, I think, part of the problem is a lot of people don't want to do the extra work. We would rather just do the same thing over and over again for everyone and hope it works for everyone. But that's not how it works. You're not going to get these. It will work for some, but not everyone. We have to tailor make each and every single case in the treatment for each one. How do we get this individual housed and help them keep their housing permanently? And it requires a program to truly be flexible and be willing to put in that effort.
Thank you for your answers.
All right, we We are at time, and I'm really sad to say that we have to cut our conversation. But as I think you all can tell, that these are ongoing conversations, and I hope that this was, like I said in the beginning, a spark of having these conversations with other folks and engaging with our organizations that are doing these groundwork efforts to support our unhoused community members. I really want to thank you both, Jenny and Greg. This was wonderful. Difficult, like I said, difficult conversation, difficult things to hear, but things that we need to hear, and we need to know about. So, um, I want to make sure that our participants know that the rest of our episodes, what the topics are and when they're coming up. I have a QR code in the corner here that you can scan to register to any or all of the rest of our webinars. I will, either me or Kathleen will send out a follow-up email with the link to register, as well as a recording of our time today and the slides today, so you can see Jenny's slides and Greg's slides. We do, Kathleen helped me as we were going through our Q&A. We have some raffle winners, randomized raffle winners. We raffled off a free consultation, free 30-minute consultation with Opened Eyes. And our winner for that is Sean G. Sean, still here? Yes. Congratulations, Sean. I will, if you want to send your email in the chat, that would be great, or I can find it from our registration. And the winner of our surprise Opened Eyes swag is Maria K. Is Maria here? Awesome. So I will reach out to those winners. And again, I'm really appreciative for everyone's time today. It is a Friday afternoon, so I know it can be tiring, but thank you guys again. In our follow-up email, I will also, Jenny and Greg, if you're okay, I'll share your contact information. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
We did have some
Absolutely.
questions. Yeah, we had some questions that didn't get answered. So if you have follow-up questions, I will share their contact information as well. But yes. Oh, thank you, Sean. I see that in the chat. Thank you all again, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I'm gonna stop recording and I'll end our meeting, and I will send follow-up emails. And yes, again, thank you so much and have a great weekend.